What's up, everybody? Welcome to a very spooktacular Halloween edition of The Sweat. On tonight's menu, hockey, college football, NBA, and of course, NFL. Let's start there. Matt LaMarca of the Action Network is here. DraftKings contributor Jeff Ulrich is here. And it's time to chase or fade these bets from the DK Sportsbook about tonight's Thursday night football game. So, 49ers are favored by 10 points in this one against Arizona. No David Johnson for SFs or Chase Edmonds for the Cards. So, Matt, chase or fade, this will be an easy cover for undefeated San Francisco.
I can't hear you guys. I'm not sure what you're saying.
Okay, no one can hear me?
I'm assuming you're asking me about the NFL contest
Can you hear me now?
tonight. Yes, now.
Okay, great.
Sorry.
Yeah, I asked you the first question that was given to you.
Right. So we're looking at the 49ers favored by 10 points against Arizona, and I don't think that this is going to be as easy a cover as some people seem to think. The Cardinals fit a couple of profitable trends that we have over at the Action Network. Teams that score less than 10 points in their previous game, they cover at roughly a 67% clip the following week because the spreads normally get inflated in their favor. So they have that working for them. Also, if you just took underdogs in divisional games, getting at least 7.5 points, that's another factor that is sort of working in their favor tonight. So I'm a little skeptical that this game is being played on a Thursday. I tend to think that the short week favors the better team, and the 49ers clearly qualify as the better team in this contest. They have a huge mismatch in the trenches in particular, but favorites this season are just 2-5 on Thursday night. So that gives me a little bit of hope with the Cardinals. I will side with them tonight.
Wow, Jeff. I mean, are you going to side with the Cardinals?
First of all, Jesse, I don't want you to feel left out. So.
Oh, yes!
All right.
Thank God you're here, Jeff.
There we go.
Oh, thank God you're here.
But, I mean, look, I do get what Matt's saying, and I think normally this would be a spot I would be kind of interested in taking the Cardinals with the 10-point spread. At home, it's a division game, short week. I'm going to side with the 49ers here, though, and there's a couple reasons why. Matt kind of mentioned it. It really comes down to just a massive mismatch, offensive line versus defensive line. I mean, you have the top-rated defensive line in terms of adjusted sack rate in the 49ers. Arizona's offensive line is bottom 5 in that same metric. So you have that just to worry about first. And then you have the Cardinals coming in on a short week with just so much uncertainty around the running backs, a position that offensively is so important to them. I mean, their running back is basically their number one receiver, and now they're throwing in a guy who's been with the team for 2 days. I just don't like that scenario for them scoring points and maybe even like in a backdoor cover scenario. So I think they can definitely cover here, but I think they'd have to get Larry Fitzgerald and Christian Kirk going, which they haven't done lately. So I'm going to side with the 49ers here.
All right, Jeff, what are you, by the way? Are you a mouse?
I think this is a cat costume.
I'm going mouse.
It's a mouse costume for sure. Those are rounded ears.
All right, we'll go with mouse. You can be the cat.
Like from Mean
Cat
Girls.
and mouse. A little game of cat and mouse. All right, the total of this one is 43 points. The 49ers put up 51 points by themselves against Carolina in Week 8. So, Jeff, chase or fade this one going over?
Yeah, I'm going to take the under here. Again, it's a little bit of I understand the argument that like San Francisco might be able to just do whatever they want and meet this total themselves. But it's a short week. You have an Arizona offense that I think is going to have a lot of trouble scoring points, especially given the status of David Johnson, no Chase Edmonds. I feel like on a short week, taking the under here and just assuming that, San Francisco kind of gets ahead, just lays off a little bit at the end, and maybe it's like a 30-10 game. I like the under here. And also, if you look at the trends of these two teams, like San Francisco's 2-5 against the over. So, I mean, 5 of their 7 games have gone the under. Arizona's only 4-4 hitting the over. So, yeah, I'll take the under here.
Matt, you want to go under too?
Yeah, I'm going under. I think if you're backing the Cardinals like I am, you need this game to go under, or else you have very, very little chance of winning. So I'll go with the under. I mean, this Arizona offense, we expected them to be, like a pace machine, throwing the ball all over the place. And they've actually cooled down a bit in terms of their pass rate over the past couple of weeks. And that has resulted in their offense being a little bit better. So I think they're not, going to go full air raid like we might have expected from them at the beginning of the season. And that should also help in an under game against, a 49ers team that has a great defense.
All right, let's take a look at some prop bets. We'll start with the quarterback. So Kyler Murray is plus 153 to throw for more passing yards than Jimmy Garoppolo. So chase or fade the plus money here. Will Kyler throw for more yards than Jimmy? Matt?
Yeah, I'll take the plus odds here with Kyler. I mean, I'm skeptical that the Cardinals are going to be able to put up a ton of points, but in terms of passing yards, I think Kyler should be, a little bit closer to even against Garoppolo. I mean, San Francisco has the highest run rate in football. They're running the ball over 57% of the time right now. So if they have their way, this is going to be a big game for guys like Tevin Coleman on the ground. And I think Arizona might be, they're clearly the more balanced team. And if they do fall behind, that would bode well for Murray's pass yard expectation as well. So I'll take the plus odds here. I think that this is good value here with Kyler.
Jeff, where do you sit on this one?
I'm gonna disagree again. I mean, it's just such a crazy spot. And crazy isn't how good the 49ers defense have been, and also how many passing attempts opposing quarterbacks against the Arizona Cardinals have been taking. So even like a low volume team like the 49ers, I think you're going to see a little bit more passing and just more efficiency from Jimmy Garoppolo. I mean, the lowest passing total an opposing quarterback has had against the Cardinals is 220 yards. So that doesn't sound like much, but I mean, you have guys like Kyle Allen throwing for 4 touchdowns, 260. I think Jimmy Garoppolo is going to approach 250 here. I think Kyler Murray is going to be under stress all night. I really do feel like the Arizona offense is going to have trouble tonight. So.
All right, George Kittle is in a great spot against a Cardinals team that has trouble defending the tight end. His receiving yards total is set at 67.5. Jeff, chase or fade, Kittle hits the over here.
Yeah, I would definitely chase the over in this spot. Again, I really do feel like San Francisco is going to be able to do whatever they want kind of in the pass game. I just don't see too much pressure getting put on Garoppolo. I think this is a game where you could see Jimmy G toss for like 3 touchdowns, and I think George Kittle just matching up against the Cardinals defense, who has improved a little bit against the tight end. They've improved that deficiency, but they haven't faced a tight end like George Kittle, who's just so skilled at getting open. He's in a scheme that is just so good at getting him open. I could see him busting off a long pass or long catch, and hitting this total in one target, quite frankly. I'm not saying that's going to happen, but I would take the over.
Matt, you going to chase the over for Kittle?
Yeah, we at the prop bet tool here over at Fantasy Labs have Kittle going under, but I'm going to go out on my own limb here and take the over. I mean, George Kittle is one of the best tight ends in the league. Arizona, I know that they looked better, against Evan Ingram and guys like that, but Kittle really is his own beast at the tight end position. Like there are very few tight ends in the league who can run after the catch and do the things that this guy does. So I agree with Jeff that San Francisco, if they do choose to pass the ball a little bit more, Kittle should be able to have a huge day against them. I still don't know if that's the direction that they'll want to go, but Kittle really only needs like 5 catches to get over this amount, and I think he should be able to do that.
Finally, with not much of a running game this week, Kyler Murray could be looking at his favorite target, Christian Kirk, early and often. Kirk's reception total is set at 4.5. Chase or fade that he goes over that, Matt?
Yeah, I'm going to go under here. I mean, Kirk has been very involved in the offense, but like I mentioned earlier, they're kind of throwing the ball a little bit less than they were early in the season. That was when Kirk was getting, 10 targets, it seemed like, every single week. If they are able to run the ball, and I'm not saying that they will be able to run the ball successfully against the 49ers, especially with all their injuries at the running back position, but I just don't think that the volume for the Cardinals is going to be the same that it was early in the year. And this 49ers defense is just an absolute monster in terms of pass defense. They're first in pass defense DVOA. They have the best pass rush in the league. So it could be a low passing output kind of night for the receivers. I think that if Arizona has their way and they can keep this game close, it's going to be like a low scoring, low offensive output kind of night.
Jeff, are you going to fade Kirk's reception total going over 4.5?
Yeah, I'm kind of torn on this. I mean, I do feel like if Arizona has some success against San Francisco, it's going to come from the slot, because San Francisco traditionally, even go back to last year, hasn't been, it's kind of their one weakness against slot receivers, and Christian Kirk plays primarily out of the slot. So at the same time, I'm going to take the under. I mean, I come back to, I just don't think that Arizona is in a spot here to have success. And I'm not going to start taking over totals on their receivers if I think that. So I'll take the under here for sure.
Good stuff, guys. Hockey's coming up after Emerson goes one-on-one with Randall Cunningham.
Hey, Tara Lenizak here with a DraftKings update. Well, Bryce Harper probably isn't feeling too great today, but Nationals bettors certainly are. The Nats are World Series champs for the first time in franchise history after defeating the Astros 6-2 Wednesday night. It was the first fall classic where the road team won all 7 games of the series. Steven Strasburg earned MVP honors and was also the player that DraftKings Sportsbook users won the most money on. Strasburg had plus 1,400 odds to win the award when the series began. And if you thought those were long odds, how about this? Rewind back to June 1st. The Nationals were plus 5,000 to win it all when their record was 25-33. Now, let's turn the page on 2019 and look ahead to next year. The Nats have the 5th best odds to win it all behind Houston, the LA Dodgers, the Yankees, and Atlanta. Certainly, a lot could change in an offseason where Strasburg and Anthony Rendon could potentially hit the open market, but for now, that looks like some pretty good value.
All right, what a treat, what a pleasant surprise. We have 4-time Pro Bowler Randall Cunningham joining us now, helping us celebrate the first anniversary of DraftKings Sportsbook at Resorts. We really appreciate you being we appreciate you being here, my man. How are you?
Oh, it's my pleasure. It's so great to be here.
Hey,
Awesome.
listen, it is awesome. It's a big deal, 1-year anniversary. You were also a big deal back in your playing day. You were one of the great rushing quarterbacks of all time here, man. And that was uncommon with the position when you started in the league. But now thanks to the likes of like Patrick Mahomes, Lamar Jackson, I mean, teams are looking for that kind of player. So what do you think of this trend in football at that position?
Well, I think it's awesome. It's something that has revolutionized the game. I think that when you have these guys, like I was watching Mahomes last year, and it was just really amazing to watch him. And to see Lamar and Bridgewater doing the same thing, it kind of reminds me of like when Steve Young and I were going at it in the NFL, trying to get that quarterback rushing title every year.
Yeah, and then you had Michael Vick come along. People are like, "Oh my God!" Like,
Yep.
look at this guy just comes out of nowhere, and then it's just this wave of quarterbacks. Do you think that this is going to be something that is like maintained in the league? Like these guys are just going to keep trying to be this dual threat?
I think what happens is you get these young, great players, and you don't want to hold them back. Well, like I was watching Lamar Jackson the other day, and just his energy and the way that he prepares himself, and he's on edge the whole game. It reminds me of Brady. Brady's more laid back and calm, but Lamar is just like, let's go get it done. Give me the ball, and I need it. He took the game over himself, just like Brady does. So I think you need both types of quarterbacks, but it all depends on what type of offensive line you have.
Yeah, that's a good point. And, I mean, really just offense as a whole is at an all-time high right now. I mean, how often do you kind of think about the numbers you'd put up if you played in this era?
Oh, my God. being 56 years old, it's like hard to even fantasize about that.
Yeah, right?
But I think that, I mean, I'm watching quarterbacks, and you can't go after their legs. I would have been a totally different quarterback because that was one of my concerns. Is I was always concerned about getting hit in the knee like I did at Green Bay, and it put me out for the season. But if you could sit in the pocket like they can now, you could throw for 4,000 yards every year.
So do you think you would actually run less in this day and age?
No, I think I'd still be the same quarterback.
Okay.
I feel I'd be just like Lamar. I'd still be rolling around, but I'd still launch the ball from the pocket, and make things happen. But it takes time to develop that type of an offense with the receivers. Where when I was there, I was like, if you see me scrambling, I said just go deep, and I'll launch it down the field. And they understood that, so it didn't matter who it was, a tight end, a backup receiver, Mike Quick, Freddie Barnett, guys. I'd launch it down there, and they knew that I was going to throw it pretty far.
So who is the best quarterback in the NFL right now?
Well, statistically, and if you look at everything, it's between Breeze and, of course, Brady. Yeah. I mean, Brady, you want the winningest quarterback. That's the bottom line. Now, when you talk about excitement, I mean, Lamar Jackson, Mahomes. I mean, you look at these guys, and you want to watch these guys.
I was going to say, it's like appointment television. Like when you know they're on, you want to watch it.
Yeah, and the thing is, I'm a Brady fan. I was not a Brady fan because my brother's a Patriot. He played for the Patriots, and I'm an Eagle. So, we've always had that battle going on. but Brady still is the best quarterback in the history of the NFL. And Drew Brees is statistically the greatest ever. But when you look at these young kids, it's like, that's what I want to see. Like when I saw Lamar the other day, I wanted to watch the whole game. Like I didn't care about, watching the commercial. I'm going to watch the commercial because then I want to see him. I didn't want to miss anything. And once Mahomes comes back, that's going to be such a blessing.
How hard is it to wrap your mind around the success that Tom Brady is having at his age? I mean, we've seen guys kind of push the limit a little bit, take it deep into their 30s and 40s, but it's the level that he's still playing at.
Well, he's a very, very intelligent man to continue to make that $20 or $30 million a year.
Yeah, right? He's doing something right.
That'll keep anybody. I mean, with his endorsements, he's got a happy wife, happy life, So he's got it all going on for himself, and I really like him. Over the years, I haven't liked the Patriots, but he's made me like that team. He's made me like him as a player, and to play at that age, it's amazing. I mean, I felt good at 38, but when you talk about, what is he, 53 now?
Yeah, dude, that's probably when he'll retire at 53.
Yeah, he'll probably retire. I think, what is he, 41, 42?
Yeah, he's 42.
So I mean, that's like ridiculous.
Yeah, it is. It is.
And he should keep on playing as long as he wants to play. Yeah,
I'm sure the NFL would love that, man. He's another guy where you see that, you see him on the TV guide, and you're like, all right, I got to watch the Patriots. We are talking.
And the thing about him, everything's clean with him.
Yeah.
He doesn't get in trouble.
No.
That's what I love about him.
That's right. Again, I think it's because he has a wife who's kind of being like, hey, listen, man, all right? Like, we've all had them. Mine keeps me in line, too. I get it. She tries her best to.
All right. Chris Wassel of Awesemo.com is here with me to price check tonight's teeny tiny 2-game slate. So, Johnny Gaudreau of the Flames hasn't scored a goal in 9 games, and as a result, his price is the lowest it's been all season at $6,000. I mean, are you jumping on him tonight against Nashville?
In a word, no. Still
All
not
right.
going to jump on him. As much as I love Johnny Hockey, I still think that he, for some bizarre reason, wants out of Calgary. The numbers are there. The chances are still pretty solid. There's nothing dramatic about his drop other than the fact that the production isn't there. It almost mirrors a certain New Jersey Devils player named Taylor Hall has had the same kind of problem in New Jersey. Chances, everything there, all good. Numbers seem to be there. Opportunities don't seem to be executed. So stay away from him tonight still.
All right, 4 Vegas wingers are all within $1,000 of each other tonight. You got Mark Stone, Max Pacioretty, Jonathan Marchessault, and Riley Smith. So which player will be worth their price tonight against Montreal?
This is tough. I mean, you have literally what we used to call in DraftKings circles cluster pricing. Kind of nice for DFS tonight because of the 2-game slate, but also kind of bad because you really want to differentiate at least a little bit tonight. That being said, it's got to be Mark Stone. Look, he generates the most potential for points, and then if you really want to go after stacking that a little bit, then you go at Max Pacioretty. Put the two of them together for a mini stack. And let Pacioretty go to town against the team that he just loves playing against in the Montreal Canadiens.
All right, with goals in each of his last 3 games, Joel Armia of the Canadiens has reached his highest price of the season. He's $6,200 tonight at Vegas. Is he going to be worth it?
No, he's not, unfortunately. As much as I would love him to be, because he's been on my season-long fantasy roster all year, a lot of leagues, and he's really saved my bacon many times. Unbelievable conversion rates down low, particularly near the slots, which is unlike him. So you have to figure there's some kind of regression coming. I got to be honest, I would love to see it, but no.
Let's take a look at the goalies. Plain and simple here. Pekka Rinne is the most expensive netminder in the best matchup. Are you going to pay up for him tonight?
I am absolutely paying up for him. I know one of these nights I'm going to sing Rinne's praises and it's going to burn me on this show, but hopefully it's not tonight. Montreal's coming in. Look, you have to look at it this way. Calgary's not all that rested. They played a lot of games, even though they didn't play last night. They played a lot of games lately, and they have a rough record on the road. I think they have 2 wins in like 7 or 8 games on the road. And Rene has not lost a game in regulation at home yet. So there's that. There's the sparkling .937 save percentage and the sub 2 goals against. Also, one thing with Rene this year is he's seen a few more shots a year, so he could dangle potentially close to that DK save bonus as well.
Oh, all right. Slate approved pick time. Who's your favorite player on tonight's 2-game slate?
Look, I have a backup plan only for this reason tonight. It's in the God forbid case that Peter Laviolette says he magically has a setback. So my plan B is Philip Forsberg because he's supposed to play tonight, according to everybody in Nashville. Now, that doesn't mean, bet the farm on this, but he's my plan B. My plan B, however, and he's always going to be my plan A, at least in this 2-game slate, is Mark Stone of the Vegas Golden Knights. I love seeing a guy who celebrates goals like he does because he celebrates goal number 10 like it's goal number 1 of his NHL career.
Love a good celebration. Thanks, Chris. Still got NBA to get to and a college football preview, but first, this week's edition of Levitan's Leverage.
It's a weeknight edition of Levitan's Leverage. Normally we're joined by Adam Levitan. Instead, we've got Jerry because, hey, it's Halloween, so why the heck wouldn't we? Levy tells us each and every week which players to put in our lineups. You either listen or you don't, but he's a pretty smart guy. I think you should. Jerry, you look great.
Happy Halloween. Rough.
There we go. Allen Robinson, $6,800. He's on the road to face the anemic Eagles defense. Bears wideout is reliable, double-digit fantasy performer really each and every week because he gets almost 10 targets every single game. But the salary is up $800 from last week. So why buy now?
Yeah, he's expensive. There's no doubt. I think one thing we can say about Allen Robinson at this price is he won't be owned despite having one of the best matchups on the slate. And yeah, Mitchell Trubisky is completely down in the dumps. I think we've seen signs that his coach does not trust him. But as we saw last year, Mitchell Trubisky can show up out of nowhere with huge spike games. If he has won, a game against the Eagles is certainly a place to do so.
Quarterbacks really aren't that high priced on the Sunday slate. Josh Allen, for instance, $6,500 at home against the Redskins. I'm assuming you just love the matchup here because it's not like the Bills QB is playing well.
Yeah, and Josh Allen hasn't had a game above 22 DraftKings points all season. And for sure, Russell Wilson has a better expectation, I think, in terms of a raw projection, and he's only 7,200. But Josh Allen is a guy who has shown that he can get 30, 40 points on a slate thanks to his legs and thanks to what he can do with the deep ball. And so I think against the Redskins here at home, this is a spot where Josh Allen can finally access that ceiling that we saw last year.
One more for you. Viking stud Dalvin Cook. He's 9,500, but in KC against choppy Chiefs D, he's easily already hit 25 fantasy points in 6 of his 8 games. Is this a situation where you just have to ignore the chalk and go for it?
Yeah, I think Christian McCaffrey will actually be a little bit more owned, and he's 500 more at 10,000. But yeah, Dalvin Cook's going to be popular for sure, but I think with good reason. One of the reasons we've seen Dalvin Cook not get up towards 25, 30 touches in a lot of these games is the Vikings have either been getting blown out or blowing people out. I think this game has a chance to be really, really close. And in those situations, Dalvin Cook has a chance to get up towards those 25, 30 touches. That just leads to a massive, massive game with the way that he's playing. So I think Dalvin Cook is not overpriced even at 9,500.
Okay, so go for the chalk, but, Jerry, happy Halloween. Stay away from the chocolate. Be safe.
Rough.
Welcome back to this spooky season edition of The Sweat. Our dude Ben Rasa of Awesemo.com is here with a Week 10 college football preview. All right, number 7 Oregon visits USC this weekend. Ducks favored by 4.5. They had a scare last week against Washington State. Are you sticking with your Ducks here? Do you like them to cover this spread?
Gotta stick with the Ducks. They easily could have lost at home last week, but they survived. Oklahoma losing is giving them some hope here. If they can keep winning, this is a tough spot. USC really throwing the ball well, but Oregon's improved defense, I think, will do enough on the road. And on the offensive side, I think they can run it down USC's throat. So I will lay the 4.5 despite being on the road.
Here's a good one. Number 15, SMU visiting number 24, Memphis. The Mustangs come into this one undefeated and favored by 6. Will they stay that way and also cover the spread?
No, I think Memphis finds a way to put SMU on their first loss here. Key injury on the outside. We have to see if SMU's good receiver will play. He's questionable right now, but I know they lost guys like Henderson, Pollard, who were playing on Sundays, but Memphis still has Brady White and this passing attack. And at home, I think we really see it should be a shootout. The total's north of 70, but I think Memphis wins relatively easily and puts SMU out of the unbeatens.
Taking a look at Saturday's full slate of games, Clemson is the heaviest favorite, 47.5 against Wofford. Will that be the most lopsided game, or are you looking somewhere else?
Poor Wofford. The Terriers,
it's really awful.
Not good. I'm going to go to Texas A&M. They've had an awful, brutal stretch of games. They get Texas San Antonio, who, they're not Wofford, but at the same time, they are not of the caliber of the SEC teams, of course. That's a 38.5 point spread. I think A&M kind of takes out some frustration against them. I have a feeling they could easily win by 50 or more.
Which game do you see as having the most upset potential this weekend?
So there's a couple, but one of the biggest games I'm going to go to, Florida almost getting a touchdown. It's 6.5 from what I've seen against Georgia. The game's in Jacksonville, big game in the SEC East. Both teams kind of an elimination game, but Georgia's just been out of sorts. They slipped up at home to South Carolina. Took the second half to bury Kentucky, and if they don't play better, Florida will beat them. Points should be at a premium. I don't know if Florida can score enough. They struggled, no disrespect, at LSU, which is not anything to be ashamed of. But at the same time, if Georgia is not back to what we've seen, I'm going to roll with the Gators in this spot. I think they can handle them.
Thanks, Ben. Great stuff as always. NBA is on the way after we hear a little more about this weekend's college games from Emerson Latzia and Julian Edlow.
Last week, there was basically no one who anyone felt comfortable below $4,900 playing at running back. That was Ty Johnson, who turned out to be awful. But still, people felt like okay about playing Ty Johnson until Kamara was declared officially out. Then everyone just kind of found the money to move up to Latavius Murray. Worked out really well. But now looking at the bottom this week of running back, Jalen Samuels is $4,000. James Conner's iffy to play. That's going to be an early game on Sunday, so we're going to know if Connor is active or inactive before that. I said the question for the giveaways was, out of 10 lineups, how many would you play Jalen Samuels in? I think the answer for me, if James Conner is out, is 10.
So I think that's a really reasonable answer. He's low-priced. We'll see if Snell might be hurt as well. He could have the backfield to himself. We know he can do a lot of different things. He can catch the ball, which that makes it even less likely that he completely whiffs just because of the PPR floor. He's going to be very popular, as we know, but we also, look at Latavius Murray. He was so popular, and he was a staple of basically every lineup last week. So to get leverage, you're going to need a lot. And if you really want to lock him in, I see no problem doing that if we get word Connor's out.
The one difference this week as opposed to last week is, there are multiple pay down options, none in as good of a spot as Samuels. Like the Colts have the 29th ranked run defense per DVOA. They should be able, and they have a good offensive line as well, that they should be able to somewhat effectively run the ball. But if they do fall behind, we know that's probably even more valuable for Jalen Samuels because he is such a good pass catcher that he has the best scenario if Connor is out of any of these low priced running backs. However, you do have a situation where Adrian Peterson is down there at $4,200. He was banged up last Thursday night and still looked pretty good against a good run defense for the Vikings. The Bills on paper have a very good defense, but they can be taken up the middle. We saw Jordan Howard do that last week. I don't know if the Skins can get the push or have the game script to actually pull this off, but he's in play at least. I probably won't use him, but I think that he's in play at $4,200. Tariq Cohen against Philly. They have a good pass rush and are terrible in the receiving game. Logically, that makes a lot of sense, and you know that he's going to do his damage through the air. He might not get the goal line touches, which brings him down behind someone like Samuels or Peterson in that sense, unless he can break a big one. But also, Mark Walton is $4,500. He's playing the Jets, whose defense is atrocious. They're only 3-point dogs at home this week, and everyone just kind of watched him not perform on Monday night against the Steelers. The Steelers' run defense is really, really good. He played over 80% of the snaps. It's very unlikely that you're going to find that sort of volume from any player, almost ever, that isn't just a random injury replacement, which Walton isn't, at $4,500 and below. I don't really know what to make of Walton. I know he gets involved in the passing game. I know Balaj has been used as their goal line back, but if he's going to see 20 touches against the Jets, which isn't like his range of outcomes and like a good range of outcomes, I have some interest, I think.
I have a little. You mentioned 6 targets, over double-digit carries. That's the volume we want. Spread-wise, this is as good as you're going to find with Miami. You know, they're still a dog at home, but it's supposed to be a competitive game. I worry a little bit. The Jets' run defense isn't certainly not the weak link of that team. They have a bunch of problems. That's not one of them. But I think you can justify it based on the volume. And if you want to one-off a guy like Samuels, you'll get a fraction of the ownership on someone like Walton.
What's going on, people? I am Emerson Lotzi alongside DraftKings contributor Julian Edlow. So we're getting you ready for College Football Saturday, presented by Wrangler.
Yeah.
Jules, we've got 9 games to choose from in this contest, starting with an ACC matchup between Boston College and Syracuse. The Orange, winless in the conference this season. So what kind of threat do they present to the Eagles?
Right, we've got Syracuse at home here, but look what they've done. They're coming off a lot of bad losses. Last win was over Holy Cross. BC, it's easy to look down on them getting blown out by Clemson, but who doesn't get blown out by Clemson in the ACC? I think the Eagles have been far more competitive in this conference, and I kind of think that they have a good chance to go to Syracuse here and get a win at the Dome.
All right, let's go south. It's Florida-Georgia week in the SEC. 8th-ranked Bulldogs hosting the number 6 Gators in Jacksonville. Duval. All right, what kind of fireworks are you expecting in this rivalry, bud?
This is going to be a really good game. This is probably the game of the week right here. A really good SEC showdown between a couple of teams that really need a win. Georgia, really disappointing loss at home to South Carolina there a while back. They need to show that they are not that team. I expect them to come into Florida here and play like the better team that we expected them all to be this season. So Florida can obviously compete in this game, but I think it's going to be an awesome game, but give the edge to Georgia here.
All right, finally, to the sneaky good American Athletic Conference, we have 6-2 UCF, your national champions from 2 years ago, taking on a 3-win Houston team. How can they keep up with this ridiculously fast and talented Knights squad?
Yeah, Houston's a good team, but they kind of showed their hand this season when their quarterback decided to redshirt. So UCF coming off another game, running up that scoreboard.
63 points.
We got a UCF guy right here. I think we're going to get more of the same from the Knights in this one. A usual high-scoring game, a lot of points out of them.
All right, I'm Emerson Latzia. You are DraftKings contributor Julian Edlow of DK Live. That's a look at some of Saturday's top college football matchups presented by Wrangler.
A very small slate in the association tonight. You're probably thinking, who do I roster? How do I differentiate myself? Well, never fear. Karn Phillips, Alex Bertha, and Matt LaMarca are here to save the day. And guys, a little bit of news. The Sixers, Joel Embiid, and Timberwolves, Karl Anthony Towns, have each been suspended 2 games for Wednesday's altercation. So, Matt, any thoughts on that? Saw it coming?
My thoughts is don't mess with Joel Embiid. I would
Really?
not square off with that dude.
I feel like Kat had him in like a headlock.
Doesn't matter though. If you win the fight, you're gonna lose the fight on social media afterwards. Like he's relentless, that dude.
I bet Kat actually. I don't know. I'm just saying. Kat. Maybe it's because I have cat ears on, but Kat tweeted the SpongeBob thing. It was like, I was raised by lions. Like I feel like he owned him, but whatever. Let's move on to NBA pick and roll. So I need you to choose between these 2 players or bets on tonight's slate. So let's take a look at the center position. Nikola Jokic is the most expensive player on the slate at $10K. Karin, are you playing him tonight, or would you save a little with Bam Adebayo at $7,600?
Come on, I'm saving money.
Of course you are.
But there's somebody else that's playing basketball tonight that I want to spend all my money on, which is why I'm saving so much money on Bam. So definitely take the cheaper player.
Alex, you going to take the cheaper player here?
No, I like Jokic here. With Derek Favors out for the Pelicans, I don't really think New Orleans has the size to stop Jokic when he's in the post. The Pelicans are allowing a ton of shots
at the rim. They have the second worst defense in the NBA. I mean, I think Adebayo is a solid matchup as well, but in this specific case, I'm okay with paying up for Jokic.
Matt, you gonna pay up for Jokic?
I think Bam is clearly the better value. He's just been so good this season. His price is yet to really reflect his new role for the team. The bigger question to me is, do you want to play both of these guys? Jokic is one of the highest ceiling players on a small slate, probably the highest ceiling player, especially considering the injury to Favors. But I just like the idea of fading him. He's going to be, 40+% owned. And we know that this guy has been prone to, these games where he just doesn't look involved, doesn't get aggressive, things like that. So if I fade him and it works, I think that I'm going to put myself in a good position to find myself in the cash tonight.
Well, Kawhi Leonard will return to action tonight against his old team in the Spurs. He'll cost you $9,500 tonight. Alex, are you interested in Kawhi, or maybe save a little money and go down to Brandon Ingram, who will cost you $7,900 and is coming off back-to-back 50-plus fantasy point performances?
Yeah, Ingram has been playing really well. I mean, my main concern is that Drew Holiday is back. That could take some usage away from him. Ideally, I'd like to spend up for Kawhi. But I do think that, like we mentioned before, trying to, move off some of the chalk of the slate is important. So, I do like Ingram here. I mean, the Nuggets are a really tough defensive team. I'm sure he'll see a lot of Jeremy Grant, Paul Millsap, but Ingram's been playing so well that it's tough to fade him.
Matt, Kawhi or Ingram for you?
For me, it's Kawhi here. This has just been such a great start to his Clippers tenure. I mean, we're on pace to see some numbers from Kawhi that we haven't really seen from him before during the regular season. He's always been a guy that you can count on during the playoffs, but he's never been, that super high usage type of guy, and he is that now with the Clippers. He's got a usage rate above 37% to start the season. His previous career high is like 31%, and he was closer to 30 last year with Toronto. So the results have been really good, 1.89 DraftKings points per minute to start the season. I think that, until he's above 10K, he's a pretty easy plug and play for me most nights.
Card, is this who you were saving that salary for, Kawhi?
Like, I don't care how much money Kawhi was tonight. Like, I was going to spend all my money on him. Like, just for the drama of this game. And then on top of that, you think about he sat last game. So he's very rested to play Pop in the Spurs. And this is one of those situations that if you're a player, the way that whole thing went down, like, you're never going to forget about it. Like, every single time you go against Greg Popovich in the Spurs organization, you're going to go off. And he also has a roster full of guys who are going to put extra fuel in his battery. Like, I can't imagine what like Doc Rivers and Patrick Beverley are saying to him pregame to get him even more amped up. We might get a or something. Who knows?
What it do, baby?
Yeah. We're definitely getting that after the game, though. What it do, baby?
Okay, all right, let's take a look at the DK Sportsbook. Highest game total tonight is between the Spurs and Clippers, 227.5. Are you picking the over or the under here, Matt?
Yeah, I'm going with the over. The total on this game has been flying up, but the Sharps just keep pounding it right now. Like 90% of the money that has been bet on the total in this game has come in on the over. And historically, when that much money is coming in, it's a strong bet. So I'll go with the over here for a rested Kawhi, rested Clippers team. I think that the points should be plentiful here.
Karin, I know you're taking the over because you're taking Kawhi.
I'm taking the under.
Oh!
I think the Spurs are going to get completely shut down. Like, this isn't just Kawhi wants to just dominate with points. Like, they just want to embarrass them. Think about how good the Clippers have been on defense. And then you give them extra motivation. That means Patrick Beverley's going to be riled up. Kawhi is going to be suffocating everybody. Montrezl Harrell is going to be flying everywhere. Like, take the under on this. The Spurs will not score a lot of points tonight.
Alex, you taking the over or the under?
This is a really tough call. I mean, there's not as much value in the over as there was before. But I still like the over just because both of these teams are top 4 in offensive efficiency. The Spurs are surprisingly getting up and down the court, 7th in pace. Yeah, I mean, both sides are really going to be motivated here. Despite the really good defense by the Clippers, I think every team is just gonna both teams are gonna be are gonna be putting the ball in the basket here. So yeah, it's a relatively high total for a Spurs game, but I do like the over here.
Finally, largest spread is between the Heat, favored by 6.5 over the Hawks. Atlanta will be without Trae Young tonight. Is this going to be an easy cover for Miami, Karin?
Yes, and I'm like devastated living here in Atlanta. The Trae's done for like 2 or 3 weeks. It's like all the energy has been sucked out the city, especially after they collapsed against the Sixers the other night. Jimmy's back. Miami's rolling. Tyler Hero's playing like a creative player. Like, yeah, this is an easy one.
Easy one for you, Alex?
Yeah, they should easily cover. I mean, it's kind of surprising to me that the line is this close. I think that's what's kind of confusing to me and throwing me off. Like, shouldn't the Heat be favored by like 7.5, something like that? But theoretically, yeah, I mean, the Heat really should cover this one. Trae Young is such a dominant offensive player for the Hawks. When he's out, I'm not really sure what they're going to do.
Easy cover for you, Matt?
Yeah, I'm a little skeptical. Again, I'm in agreement with Alex. I think this line is a little fishy, but I don't see how Miami doesn't win this game. I mean, you look at the Hawks lineup without Trae Young. He's carried so much weight for them. I just don't know where the buckets are coming from. Like, is Cam Reddish getting the buckets? DeAndre Hunter? Like, I just don't really see it. So, yeah, I'll take Miami. Maybe it's a trap, but I'll fall for it.
And it's less about who's getting the buckets for Atlanta tonight. It's the fact that, like, Evan Turner has to play point guard for an entire game. We haven't seen him do that in a long time since he was playing in Columbus, Ohio.
Could be bad. All right, slate approved pick time. Alex, who's your top pick for tonight's 3-game slate and why?
I'm going to stick with Jokic. I know he's a really high price, and I know Adebayo's a good value, but this New Orleans front line, I really do not think they're going to be able to contain him at all.
Matt, slate approved pick time.
Yeah, so I'm going a little creative here. I'm looking for a way to maybe differentiate my lineup. I mentioned I don't know where the Hawks are getting buckets from. I think the guy might be Jabari Parker. That guy is not afraid to score, not afraid to shoot. So let's get him in our lineups at 4,300 and see what can happen.
Karin, who is your slate approved pick?
I am a huge fan of that Jabari Parker pick because he's going to get shots up tonight. But what it do, baby?
Going with Kawhi. Hey. All right, good stuff, guys. Wrapping up the show with Showdown picks after the latest from the Panel B podcast.
Indy at Pittsburgh was floating around to pick 'em. It must have moved to -0.5 point when Janko got it, but it's Indy's -1 point at -110 right now, or -118 on the money line. It looked like he tried to take the spread, but at 0.5 point, maybe he wants the money line. In my mind, when you can buy a point for 8 cents worth of juice and just make it a pick 'em, right. You're just going to take this at -118 and take Indy as the outright winner at Pittsburgh. And I like this one a lot, too. Don't we all agree that the Colts are a much better team than the Steelers? The Steelers are, 27 points in a row on Monday Night Football against the Dolphins. Now they're on a short week playing a good Colts team.
Yep.
I think this one's a little bit more debatable than Cleveland. I think Cleveland's like a home run spot. But the Colts are a really good team, and I like them in this spot. James Conner is hurt. We don't know exactly what shape he's going to be in if he is able to go on Sunday.
Yep, that's fine.
You got a feel on that one? You like Pittsburgh?
I was actually going to take Pittsburgh at +1.
As a best bet?
Yep.
Lock it in. This is our first head-to-head, right?
Yes, it is.
I like it.
So not only am I going after
not
only am I going after the king and Alex, his little undefeated streak, I'd love to be the one to take him down and hand him his first loss.
Sure.
So you mentioned how the Steelers are a little banged up, short week, but also on the other side, defensively, they've been pretty damn good. And I think that's one part of the game that has really been talked about. T.Y. Hilton should see some shadow cover. Wow. T.Y. Hilton should see some shadow coverage.
Got it.
So there's that. Don't like that. And they've been a tough team to run against. So I think that also can come into play with Marlon Mack and whatnot. So getting them a +1 basically to win this game, I kind of like it. I think I'll take the Steelers there. The other one I was going to take is Seahawks -6. Jameis Winston. What?
Sharp. I kind of agree, but I'm a square, and sharp money is pounding Tampa this week.
How?
At
why?
6.5 and moved it to 6.
Winston
they
doesn't
like him
know.
in that spot. I think Seattle's going to win. I agree. I'm not a Jameis Winston guy.
He doesn't know who's on his team.
I might wind up on it. I'm just telling you that it's this is one that maybe if you like Seattle, you bet that on Sunday, because for some reason sharp money really likes Tampa here, and maybe it comes down to 5.5, 5, because it opened at 6.5 and has already gotten bet down to 6. So,
well, I'm going to take one for the team, and I'm going to take it on -6.
I like it. I like it.
Like that's the thing. Winston doesn't know who's on his team. He throws so many interceptions, 7 the past 2 games. How's that even possible? It's amazing.
I don't know.
And this is a guy who has Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, some other guys. Like, how can OJ Howard?
He gets it to them too. They put up numbers.
Yeah,
he just
they do.
turns it over too much, and that's probably why he gets it to him so much, because he turns it over so much. Now it's like, oh man, now we really got to catch up.
All right, so Seahawks -6 and Steelers +1.
Okay,
those are mine.
Tara Lanizak here with your DraftKings Fantasy Flash. The Kansas City Royals have hired a new manager. Former St. Louis Cardinals bench boss Mike Matheny will be the 17th manager in franchise history. Matheny previously spent parts of 8 seasons with the Cardinals, where he did have some success. He had an overall record of .591 and .474, but got replaced in 2018 when the team was in danger of missing the playoffs for the 5th straight year. The 49-year-old was brought into the Royals organization last year as a special advisor for player development, and Royals GM Dayton Moore was impressed with the relationships he built. Moore said in a statement, "Through this interaction, it became very clear to our leadership team that Mike is the obvious person to lead our baseball team." Matheny will be charged with navigating the Royals through a rebuild as they lost 100 games for the 2nd straight season. Matheny takes over for the recently retired Ned Yost, who spent 9 seasons with KC and won a World Series in 2015.
Matt LaMarca, Jeff Ulrich. I'm Jessie Coffield, in case you forgot. We're shutting down the show with your picks for tonight's showdown contest between the 49ers and the Cardinals. Now, Matt, we asked earlier who would throw more yards in this game, but that isn't necessarily the guy who will put up the most fantasy points. So which quarterback is making your showdown lineups here, Jimmy G or Kyler Murray?
There's a good chance I'll play both, but I think that Garoppolo is the better play. I think that his scoring upside is significantly higher in this contest. I mean, the Cardinals' pass defense is awful. The 49ers have a much higher implied team total. They're projected to score roughly 10 more points by Vegas tonight. So I just think that his chances of putting multiple passes into the end zone are better than Kyler's. And for that reason, I'll pay up the extra bucks and go with him if I can only have one.
Jeff, which one are you going with, and do you like the idea of going with both?
I do kind of like the idea of going with both here, because Arizona doesn't really have like a high volume wide receiver. They haven't really just fed one guy that you can just key off of and say, okay, I got a great floor here. So for showdown, I think there's a good chance like Kyler could just end up being a lot of the points just with his legs or something. So I like Garoppolo though, if I'm choosing between them, basically for all the reasons Matt just said. I just feel like you look at what quarterbacks have done against Arizona. I mean, multiple passing touchdowns and basically all but one game here. And then you look at the San Francisco offense, so good at misdirection. Weapons like Jimmy Kittle or George Kittle.
Jimmy Kittle.
And now Emmanuel Sanders. Guys who can break off long plays. It's Garoppolo for me 100%.
All right. With Johnson and Edmonds out for this one, recently acquired Kenyon Drake will likely be the starting running back for the Cardinals. We talked about this a little earlier. Jeff, are you totally staying away from him tonight, or is he someone that you should consider?
Oh, you should definitely consider him. I mean, look, this is like a potentially high volume spot. When I first was looking at this game earlier today, I thought it might be a good, showdown fade here. You got a new guy coming in. Potentially David Johnson was going to be in the mix. Now we know David Johnson isn't going to be in the mix. Now the team has come out basically and said, like, we're giving the ball to Kenyon Drake tonight because we don't really have much choice. And then you add in the fact, like, Kenyon Drake is a really skilled wide receiver out of the backfield. I know he's only got a couple days in, but with all the scenarios that have come out now, all this news, I really do feel like you're probably going to need a piece of Kenyon Drake tonight, because the Arizona Cardinals use their running back so much. It's not just handing the ball off. It's action. It's obviously as a receiver, David Johnson, like I said before on the show, basically was their number one wide receiver. Kenyon Drake's got a lot of the similar skill sets. So, yeah, I think you're going to need a piece of him.
Matt, do you feel the same way?
I honestly have no idea what to do with Kenyon Drake. Earlier in the week, Shanahan said, he's going to be involved in some capacity, but, most people figured it would be a limited capacity. Now, apparently, the report is he's going to get all the work at the running back position. I mean, he's clearly the most talented back on the team and the most dynamic in the passing game, like Zach Zenner and Alfred Morris are not guys that you figure to be very involved as pass catchers. So I would think that Drake for sure plays, on third downs and such. And if the team falls behind early, his role could increase as the passing back. But are they really going to give him all the carries as well? That I'm not so sure about. I do think that his upside is very fair at his current salary. Like I'm probably going to have some exposure to him, but I don't think he's like a must play by any, stretch. And if you did want to go with like a Zach Zenner or an Alfred Morris and hope for like a goal line plunge or something like that, I wouldn't try to talk you out of that either. I think that those guys will now have very low ownership, and they might have just as much upside as far as scoring a touchdown as Drake does.
All right, Matt, I mean, who's your captain going to be tonight?
I think I'm going to go with George Kittle. We kind of talked earlier about how the how the Cardinals defense has really struggled against tight ends this season. And I think that Kittle is one of the best tight ends in the business. So I don't know if I necessarily see the big scoring upside for Garoppolo. Like, I do think that of the two quarterbacks, he's the best play, but he's not the kind of guy that has been piling up, 300 yards and 3 touchdown games this season. So I think the more likely scenario is that his production is condensed a bit onto a guy like Kittle. And if we can get 100 yards and a touchdown from him, that makes him a strong captain play. So I'll go that route. I'll save a few bucks going with him at captain. But, certainly like him and Garoppolo, I think are the two top choices.
Jeff, your captain, please.
Yeah, I mean, I'd throw Tevin Coleman into the mix there. He's not really my pick, but I think if you're looking at just the game script and everything, I mean, 10-point favorites, I think Tevin Coleman has a good chance to be one of the chalkier picks at captain tonight. I like pivoting off of it, especially since we're talking about big GPPs, and that's obviously what a lot of people are taking part in on showdown slates. I like going on Emmanuel Sanders, kind of a similar thinking to George Kittle. He should be lesser owned, hopefully, than a guy like Coleman. And then you just have the fact that you're going up against this Arizona Cardinals defense where even lower volume passing games have sort of gone off against them. And I like going to a pass catcher for the same reasons as Matt. I feel like a guy like Sanders or a guy like Kittle is going to have a better chance at a higher volume, like massive game, whereas Garoppolo might, throw for 250 and 2 touchdowns, but his ceiling is kind of capped. So the Cardinals haven't been good against covering slot receivers all year. Big games to Danny Amendola, Tyler Boyd. I think Emmanuel Sanders is in a really good spot tonight. I think he'll be lower owned in big GPPs.
And Jeff, who should the people look to for some value?
I'm going to go to the Arizona tight ends. They're kind of an interesting coupling in Max Williams and Charles Clay. Clay has a bit more upside, in my opinion. He's a little bit better after the catch. Max Williams is like the premier dad runner of the NFL right now. They're both playing over 40% of the snaps. Clay's getting a little bit more targeting, but Williams has seen some red zone targets. Williams is obviously really cheap. He's like, I think it's $400. Clay's just in the 2K range. If you can pay up for Clay, I like that better. I feel like his upside is better for yardage. Probably both have about similar chances of getting a touchdown. But again, you're looking at this game. I mean, Arizona doesn't target their wide receivers a ton, and they don't throw downfield a ton. So I kind of like going cheap here and just hoping one of these guys gets in the end zone.
Matt, value, where are you going?
Yeah, so Matt Breida is not really a value. He's 6,600, but I like that pivot away from Tevin Coleman towards Matt Breida. I think he should command much lower ownership. And, if Coleman didn't explode for 4 touchdowns last week, the split between those guys would be much more, tightly condensed tonight. So I like the idea of fading Coleman and going with Breida. And if you want a real cheap guy, I'm going along the same lines with Jeff. I like a punt play here for Arizona, but I'm going with Demir Bird. He played basically every single snap last week. He had 5 targets. So the Cardinals offense, they play a lot of different guys. They spread the ball out. I think that Bird is a candidate to get some production and maybe get a touchdown. I mean, that's really what we're hunting for, right? We're hunting for touchdowns. And he has the chance to do that at a pretty low salary and hopefully what should be low ownership.
Well, you kind of just mentioned it, but which guy are you fading tonight, Matt?
I think I'm fading the San Francisco defense.
Oh,
to be
okay.
Honest. They're 7,400, which is just mind-boggling to me. I don't know if I can get behind playing that. Like, even if they score you 10 points, are you going to be happy about that? I don't know if you can be. You're really, if you fade them or if you play them, you're looking for like a true dominating performance and preferably a touchdown. And I just don't see that as like a likely outcome. Like, is it possible? Of course, but more times than not, a defense is not going to score when they take the field. So I think when you look at their salary, you look at the fact that people are going to roster them. I think plenty of people will even captain the 49ers defense tonight coming off what they did last week. Just by fading them and, maybe they have a week where they're not scoring a touchdown, they're not forcing a bunch of turnovers, like that's going to give you a big leg up. So I'm fine with avoiding a defense that's going to be that expensive and that highly owned.
Jeff, talk to me. Who are you fading?
Yeah, I kind of like that call, fading the defense. Their price is ridiculous. And Kyler Murray hasn't turned the ball over much lately either. So even if they get like 5 or 6 sacks, if they don't get turnovers, there's not much upside there. So my initial thought was to fade Kenyon Drake in the spot, like I mentioned. But with this news coming out, I don't really like that play anymore. So I think you got to fade at least one of the Arizona Cardinals wide receivers. And I know Christian Kirk's been like the heavier target, but I don't mind fading him and just going to Larry Fitzgerald or one of the cheaper options that Matt and I have both mentioned here. I mean, Kirk is a good player, but he's shown that he's had trouble separating in tough matchups. I mean, who's ever going to cover him, Richard Sherman tonight, whatever, it's not going to be easy. So, it's not like the toughest matchup, but with Kyler Murray under pressure, I don't really love this spot for a guy like Kirk, to be quite honest. That's kind of why I like, if you're going with a pass catcher on the Arizona Cardinals, go with the cheaper option.
All right, guys, that's going to do it for the sweat. We're ending a couple minutes early here to give you a chance to get a head start on your trick-or-treating. It is Halloween after all. We'll see you tomorrow at 6 p.m.